So, as you know from our last episode, almost 2 years after buying this place, we finally got our permit that allowed us to renovate the ruin and make it into a habitable house. We still hadn't applied for the troublesome missing roofs on the top floor, but for the rest, we were good to go. So, now what? Just waiting around for things to happen is not our strong suit. So we have been spending the last autumn drawing up detailed work descriptions and collecting quotes from different building companies.
Da er vi i Ravello igjen. Og det er vi fordi at vi skal ha møte med vår geometra, som bankebordet har fått inn alle 4 pristilbud. Så vi er veldig spent på hvordan de ser ut, om de gjør at hele økonomien i prosjektet går i dass.
Our geometra had set up a computometrica, an estimated calculation based on the region's list of suggested prices for the different tasks included in the project. So we knew more or less where the price ideally should land.
Allora, 130. 142, 100... Sì, è 130. Sì, perché nell'IVA, giustamente...
The companies we had contacted were known through earlier projects, either by us or by the geometra, to be reliable and competent. And we sincerely hoped that their calculations would land within the limits of our budget.
Per cui questa prima parte serve a consolidare e a mantenere intatto l'involucro e per rifinire tutta la facciata, tutte le parti esterne senza la copertura, ed sarà il primo passaggio. Non sarà un lavoro che andremo avanti in modo veloce, sarà un lavoro che dovremo fare in modo tranquillo, certosino, attento, step dopo step. È un progetto complesso quello che è messo in piedi.
In this first phase, we had asked for prices for repairing the construction, meaning filling the holes, reinforcing the structure, and closing and waterproofing the building to avoid further damages. Later, we would get to windows and doors and all the fun interior stuff, but for now, we'd start with the basics.
Quanto costerà in tutto? Più o meno intorno a quale cifra?
Secondo me per realizzare il progetto che hai disegnato, che hai girato all'ingegnere, dobbiamo considerare sui 300.000 euro.
Ok, hvordan var det?
Vi snakket jo om både anbudene,
4 anbud.
4 anbud som er kommet inn. Prisene var varierte litt, men de var ikke så ille. De 2 som kanskje er mest interessante lå veldig likt. Vi gikk også gjennom budsjettet. Det vi får pris på nå, det utgjør cirka halvparten av totalarbeidet. Han ga en sum på hva hele greiene kom til å koste, som ikke er så veldig langt unna det jeg har sett for meg, faktisk. Eller det ligger omtrent der. Det var ganske beroligende. Jeg ble litt glad, faktisk.
Så langt ganske bra.
Ja. Og så kan vi jo ta ut enkelte deler. Vi har lagt inn noen bad på soverommene, som vi ikke må ha i starten i hvert fall. Ikke sikkert vi må ha de i det hele tatt, men de kan vi vente med. Vi kan vente med den nederste delen, den kjellerdelen. Så hvis vi ser at det blir litt press, så har vi den muligheten at vi kan utsette det senere. For da kan det godt hende vi har lyst på gamle gulv, for eksempel. Vi har lyst på gamle terrakottagulv eller senggulv eller sånne ting. Og sånne ting koster jo. Så hvis vi trenger ekstra penger til å få til det, så har vi ting vi kan trekke ut og gjøre senere. Det er en fordel. Dette sier nå, når det kommer til stykket, så kommer vi til å måtte trekke de ut og ikke ha råd til de ekstra tingene. Det går jo alltid den veien. Men foreløpig så lever vi i lykkelig optimisme og tenker at dette skal vi ha råd til. Dette skal gå. Jo, skal det. Ja. Ikke tenk på det, jeg fikser det. Neida, det går fint. Vi har penger.
Vi har ikke penger.
Nei, vi har lån.
Masse lån.
Ja, det går.
So, in that slightly optimistic state of mind, at least for some of us, we cut to the decisions and chose a building company from the 4 quotes we had received. The decision was partly based on their estimate and partly on advice from our geometra, who knew them well from earlier projects. Plus, they had great references from both Italian and Scandinavian friends in the village. They've also done renovation work on some of the most important historical buildings in this area and should therefore be well suited for our little ruin. And now, Fast forward again to May 2024. We had the building permit in our hands and were ready for the next step. In addition to the actual building permit, there was a small round of paperwork to do with declaring all the functions that would participate in the project before the worksite could open. We didn't expect work to start until after summer, as nothing of importance ever happens in Italy in August. The summer holiday is sacred, as it should be. But from September, we expected work to begin, and we were totally ready. But not so fast.
Hva skal vi gjøre nå?
Nå skal vi skal til Ravello og ha et møte med han som styrer byggesaken vår, og med han som skal bygge for oss. For å få avklart om vi i det hele tatt kan begynne denne uka, som planen var. Men det ser litt dårlig ut, må jeg innrømme. Ting er egentlig klart. Håndverkerne er klare, søknaden skal være klar. Men vi har ikke byggestrøm. Vi skal få vite noe i møtet i dag om vi kan begynne, om de har fått strøm. Men tviler.
Når bussen går?
Gud. Om kvarter eller sånn. Så kanskje bare
10 minutter.
10 minutter, ok. Ok, da må jeg bli klar.
Det er ganske fint, da. Men ruinen ser akkurat ut som før.
Elettricità? Niente.
Allora, mi ha chiamato ieri la signora.
La pratica della signora Roselund perché bisogna iniziare a preparare il contratto.
In our contract of purchase, it's established that we have the right to cross the seller's property with cables and pipes for electricity, water, etc. So, theoretically, there shouldn't be a problem. But in Italy, things are never that straightforward. And when it can be done?
Ma allora è possibile che loro, per esempio, possano venire domani?
Well, that is not quite clear. Also,
Mauri,
Sì.
io già ho anticipato a Margaret, la quale è rimasta un pochettino perplessa.
lo so,
Ho detto,
immagino.
Maurizio è intenzionato.
So we're just out of the meeting with our geometer and the building company. Positive is I like the company, I trust them. Negative thing, of course, is that we cannot start as soon as we want to. We're waiting for electricity, but more importantly, we're waiting for people because the building company, they've lost a lot of workers lately. They're currently looking for more people and they don't know for sure how soon they can put the full force on our project.
okay, that was obviously a little bit disappointing. But we couldn't really expect him to be on standby for months while we were waiting for the application to go through. And being a company with a great reputation, they're absolutely not short of jobs. It is a well-known problem in the area that it is hard for the building industry to compete for labour with better paying jobs in tourism. So there was not much we could do about that, apart from waiting for Maurizio and his guys to finish their other building sites and eventually get around to our project. And while the building company is working to solve their manpower challenges, I have some organising to do on my own. I have a few things going on in my life. In addition to restoring this ruin, and as of recently also making videos about it, I of course also have my regular day job as an architect, running my own little studio. And although I like doing all of this, I hate to feel stressed. So I've had to find ways of organising things in a logical and sensible way to make sure I continue enjoying what I'm doing and don't end up burned out. One of the things I find helpful is organising apps and programs. So someone suggested I have a look at Milanote. And after trying it out a bit, I must say it's a great way of organising especially my creative ideas. It's good for any kind of notes, but for a kind of project like this ruin of ours, it's just perfect. So I was more than happy to let them sponsor us in this video. Milanote lets me easily create mood boards that illustrate the image I have in my head for each room in the house, and add comments or notes. I make boards where I collect information about materials with photos and notes about prices, links to companies, etc. This can be organised randomly, or I can move it into orderly columns if that's what I prefer. And I must say, Milanote is really easy to use. I got the hang of it right away, which is good since I have no patience for complicated interfaces anyway. I can organize my boards in a logical structure, and to create a new board or to fill it with anything I need, I just drag whatever I want to add onto the screen. I can throw my notes around as I please, or I can add them as captions to my photos, which I really should do all the time, as it makes it easier not to lose the info I want to connect to each photo. There are numerous design options to help me emphasize the things I need to focus on, and designing and organizing my boards is actually really self-explanatory. So even if one is not used to working with designing boards, Milanote would be quite easy to get into. Milanote also gives me the opportunity to let others collaborate on my boards. I can get comments from the rest of the family on my ideas, and I can send the whole mood board to the people I work with to show them what my plans are. And if designing your boards from scratch feels like more creativity than you can handle right now, Milanote also has a bunch of cool templates that make a great starting point. And then you can just build from that and make your own versions. So if you'd like to give it a go, just click the link in the episode description box below this video. And while you do that, we continue our planning. And specifically, we needed to find out if there was any realism at all in my idea of squeezing in both a little kitchen and a tiny bathroom on top of the kitchen in our future ground floor studio apartment. There are a few old and fragile wooden ladders left around in the house, but since I prefer my bones unbroken, climbing the rock seemed like a better option. I had already 3D scanned the space with my phone from the ground below, but that's not really a professional tool, so old-fashioned methods were needed to get a more precise picture. The space is quite slim, and although I'm no stranger to building tiny bathrooms, there is a limit there somewhere. And yes, the space was tight. But I decided it would work. I've lived with Italian bathrooms where absolutely all relevant functions could be performed from the same spot. So compared to, for instance, my student apartment bathroom in Florence in the 90s, this one would be luxurious. Compared to normal bathrooms, maybe not so much, but it should work, I think. We're also learning about cultural factors that play a part in organizing the work here, like what considerations to make when deciding to set a start date for the construction site.
I lavori non si cominciano il martedì e il venerdì, perché c'è un famoso proverbio che dice né di Venere né di Marte non si dà principio all'arte, eccetera, eccetera. Quindi, e poi il 13 e il 17, perché secondo la Cabala sono numeri, 17 porta disgrazia addirittura, il 13 che identifica Sant'Antonio, non si capisce il perché c'è sta questa credenza, diciamo.
Quindi inizi dei lavori
Il 13, il 17, il martedì e il venerdì, poi il resto...
Ma lunedì prossimo va bene?
È 7,
il 7, ottimo.
Sì.
Va bene.
Andiamo tranquilli.
In Italy, faith and tradition are important factors to consider in all parts of daily life, and maybe to an even more substantial degree in the south, where, for instance, the village patron saint celebrations are both highly respected and gives opportunity for much appreciated social gatherings. Anyway, autumn passes, and unlike in Norway, where we're from, in the Amalfi Coast, even late autumn brings warm, sunny days. People are still going to the beach, at least the locals are. Most of the tourists are gone for the season. The mood is nice and quiet. People are returning to their off-season lives after a hectic summer. We, on the other hand, are eager to get things started.
I'm back. Now it's November. I'm here on my own as Petter couldn't make it this time. I was hoping that we could start the building works this time, but it seems not this time either. We don't have electricity, we don't have any water, but we do have workers. As Nello, my friend, has agreed to lend us some men while we wait for the others to clear their schedule. They're ready, so as soon as we get the electricity sorted and the water, they can start. The water is that we can solve because our very nice neighbor Carlo will connect us to his water in the meantime while we wait for a permanent solution. But the electricity is a problem. We need to get connected from the street down there and up here to the property. And to do that, we need to pass various other properties. So that's a bit of a puzzle. It will get sorted. We do have some rights in the contract and all that, but it takes some work to solve it. In the meantime, we'll try to get a generator so that we can start the work soon, but not this week. But before we can do anything, we need to get a lot of heavy stuff up here. Scaffolding, heavy machinery, and we have no road to the house. So that's a challenge. The guys need to move their stuff from the last building site they had. That incidentally is our friends Catherine and Ulrich's house, right up there. And they have to move it from up there and down here. Normally around here they solve transportation in difficult places with donkeys and mules. They're able to pass the narrow steps that leads to all the properties around here. But this stuff is too heavy for donkeys and too big for the narrow steps. So we are left with the only option, that is a helicopter.
I was super excited about finally something concrete happening, but was also a bit afraid of getting in the way. Dealing with helicopters is not something I do on a daily basis. So I took the safety instructions I was given very seriously and, at least for most of the time, kept a safe distance. To be honest, I was a tiny little bit terrified. That helicopter coming out over my head felt a little more like a Vietnam War movie than a nice and cozy farmhouse renovation. And the strong winds that whirled up dust and leaves everywhere made everything a bit overwhelming. But at the same time, I really wanted to get some good shots. Luckily, our friends came to the rescue, in case you're wondering where that great footage from the second unit up there in the hill came from. We flew in a cement mixer, another mixer for lime, plus a fascinating old-fashioned and simple machine who eats rocks and spits them out as pebbles. Very useful on a building site where you want to transport as little as possible in and out of materials and waste, and therefore need to use what you find on site. As the site has no functioning sewage yet, a building site toilet also got an airy ride down the hill to our house. Various tools and appliances were fitted into large bags and transported airborne down to our landing site. Managed in both ends by Maurizio's team of builders and by the helicopter crew, who all remained calm and focused in the strong winds created by the helicopter, while all kinds of loose items were whirling around. All the scaffolding needed for repairing the facades was bundled together and lifted up in the air and deposited with a fairly high degree of precision on the cleared piece of land that had been prepared for the storage of the equipment. And while I was biting my nails and wondering what would happen if that thin red line were to snap, resulting in heavy pipes of metal dispersing over all creatures great and small on the hillside, plus their cars and houses, the crew looked like this was just another day at work. Which, of course, for them, it literally was. And after a couple of hours of heavy construction site gear dangling in thin air, we were finally done and could carefully remove sand and leaves from our hair and faces, machinery, scaffolding and materials in place. So next up, to actually start building.